Welcome to Haj Radio. I am your host, Jeeda, and you are listening to In Retrospect. Today we are reflecting on football and racism. The topic is English when we win and immigrants when we lose. I have seen this being plastered across the internet, and people from all different backgrounds and countries who are from a black, Asian or minority race have reposted or said they feel similar about it when their own respective countries are playing and depending on the result. So today I have with me Efaz, founder of Neba Football here in Leicester, who is also mentor, public speaker and coach, life skills coach and a football development coach. And you have some accolades to your name as well. So you were National Princess Trust's Ambassador Award winner in 2017, and you were Pride of Britain finalist in 2016 too. That's right. That's amazing. There's a few more here as well, actually. So you even the AAA for Success Young Entrepreneur of 2016 as well. So there's a lot here. Oh, you forgot that one.
Forgot half of them. It's been a while.
So let's cut to the chase. Let's ask this question: racism in football, does it exist?
100%. Definitely exists.
That you did not hesitate then at all. So I assume that a lot of the work that you do with Neba Football is grassroots level.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain a little bit about what you do with in terms of football, and then we can go into a bit more detail?
Yeah. So Neba Football literally says what it is on the tin. We develop young people in football. We also do seniors as well. So we've got an adults team. It's all about giving life skills or developing life skills for young people, helping them make the right choices in life whenever they go sort of deeper into their future, career choices, and just giving them that guidance really. And football, we use it as a platform to express themselves.
That's fantastic. So in terms of football, you like I said, you didn't hesitate when you said, does racism exist? Do you think it's just on the pitch or just in the crowd or both?
I'm going to take it back to what Gary Neville said recently about it. It comes from the top and it goes down. We all know where it stems from. I don't know how much I can say on here, but there's certain people that fuel the racism. For example, when it comes to taking the knee, recently, just within, I think it was about a week or so into the Euros, when certain politicians were asked what do they think about the taking the knee, etc. And they talk about how it's called gesture politics. And
yeah, I mean, we know that the Home Secretary Pratthill was on the news, and she did refer to it as gesture politics. And almost like when she was asked the question, would you condemn booing of the knee, she sort of said she wouldn't personally take the knee, and it's up to people how they feel about it initially. So she didn't necessarily say no, or she didn't necessarily say yes. She sort of took a neutral stance, which kind of made a lot of people feel that actually taking of the knee is so important to make a stand against racism in football and racism across the board, that having a high profile politician not turn around and make her stance clear was quite insulting to some degree.
No, 100%, yeah. And like you said, it's quite contradictory to say that they taking the knee is gesture politics. However, people shouldn't be doing it. However, people booing or fans booing the knee, it's up to them, and it's their choice if they want to do it or not. However, when it comes to the end of the Euros, the people at Hare and Boris Johnson, they're the first people to say that, it's disgusting what people are doing, and whoever's racist should be taken care of and all that kind of stuff. But they fueled it right from the get-go for them to turn around and say that racism shouldn't be happening. And
they were called out by high-profile footballers as well at the time, straight after the Euros. So I guess gesture politics, if we're going to go down that route, to some degree, clapping the NHS on a Thursday at 8:00 to some degree was, but everybody got involved, and there were politicians, and it was all over the news. And I guess what we're saying here is, when you're doing that, you're standing in solidarity with the nurses and the doctors who worked tirelessly during COVID and selflessly, putting their lives essentially and their families in danger, and some of them actually isolating away from their families during that peak of the pandemic. and everyone felt that they needed to get involved, and I'm sure at some stage everyone did come out and clap and make sure that they showed support to this staff. So I guess to some degree that the taking of the knee is the same principle, coming outside and taking the knee. I know a lot of people associated it with Black Lives Matter movement, which I think many people think it's an organization, which in parts in America there is an organization that represents it. However, a lot of people in the UK, Black Lives Matter is not necessarily supporting an organization. It is a statement, and it's making sure that people recognize that Black lives matter. And taking of the knee is in support of that movement and ensuring that people support. So yes, it was an absolute shame having people at high level politics, well, the highest level, the Prime Minister, also referred to it. He could refuse to condemn if people that decide to boo. So, I mean, what does it mean to you? I'm sure you've been to football matches and in person. And when there is something going on the pitch and a black footballer maybe misses something, what is the general reaction of the crowd? Have you experienced any racism?
To be fair, when I've gone to a football match in terms of a professional football match, like in the stadium, I've not experienced any racism of such. That's
interesting you should say that. So when I was younger, I used to go Old Trafford, so we're Man United fans, you can boo us if you want in our family. But I used to go Old Trafford with my dad and my brother, so I've grown up around football quite a lot because I've only got brothers. And I went to watch them play against Leeds. Don't ask me when, it was a very long time ago. And there was racism actually. The football chants that were coming out of the away side were absolutely shocking, and I remember thinking, are they actually saying what I think they're saying? And it was so much more common than I actually thought. I guess it was probably talking 15 years ago, but it was still happening in the stands. So back to grassroots football then. So when you are, say if you've got a local football match, like you said, you've got seniors playing, so I'm assuming you play people from all different backgrounds, all different places around the UK and locally, I'm assuming. What have you experienced then?
To be fair, like our young team, so under 16s who recently just folded, they were majority Asian, and I had a few black players there. My seniors team, probably one of all the most mixed teams in Leicester, I'd say. We've got white people, black people, Asian people, etc. It don't matter what game you're in, it don't matter how many white people you've got in your team or whatever it is, there's always going to be some form of racism wherever you go, especially when you go into certain areas or you have certain teams which are known for being racist.
Right.
There's even been times where, so I'm sure you've heard of CFA, another local team.
Yes,
quite, local to us and stuff. And I remember when, so I think this year we were the first time that we was in the same division, and what happened was, so even though there's like a sort of, you could say like a friendly local rivalry, whatever you want to call it, it's quite sad that, thank you, it's quite sad that, we're about to go into a match against another team, and Ahmed Maravi has given us a call saying, watch out for this team.
Right.
They're known to be racist. This is what we've suffered with before.
So how old is your youngest teams?
In terms of competitive, they were, I can't remember now. We had an under-10s futsal team. They were the youngest.
Right. Did you have to prepare them to when they play certain teams? Do you do some element of training if you're getting racism on the pitch, what they can do?
To be fair, not with the under-10s.
Right.
I think the youngest I've ever had to prepare a team for things like racism is about 12 or 13.
Wow, that's still young.
This is talking about if it comes to referees, if it comes to going at your opposition, when we go certain areas. So I'll give you a story, for example, back in 2016, so was it 2016 or 17, I can't remember, but it was near the end of the season. We've gone away to Hinckley.
Right.
And the thing is with us, right, with a lot of the Asian football teams, you see that not many of the parents come to their football games. So we've gone to Hinckley, we've got the match set up, we're playing the match, and I think a few minutes in, one of my players was running the line, so he was a linesman for us that day. And at half time, he's come up to me and he goes, Efaz, listen, there's guys, they're literally kicking me on the sideline saying all kinds of madness to me. You know, they're calling me. I don't want to say what they're saying, but
yeah, of course.
You know, they were saying all kind of nasty things to him, and they were kicking him and kind of like trying to intimidate him as well. So I've said to everyone, listen, get your stuff. We're gonna abandon the game and walk off and go home. I'm not gonna stand for it.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the players said to me, look, don't worry, just leave it. Let's play the game. We'll let our football do the talking kind of thing. We'll deal with it later. So I goes, okay, if everyone agrees to that, then that's what we'll do. And you know, throughout the game, there was so much going on. You could hear them from the other side of the pitch. So there's around about 50 spectators from the other team, and they were shouting all kinds of nasty things to us, the players. Did
it get progressively louder then throughout the game? As no one was dealing with the situation, they felt more empowered to continue because nobody was stepping in?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Referee was quite a young guy.
Right.
Probably under 20, I'd say, at the time.
And had no control of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, he was a bit of an, I don't know if I should use that word, but he was a bit too soft, I should say.
Right.
I don't know if he was intimidating himself, because the guys that were throwing the racial slurs, they were quite young themselves as well.
Right. That could quite possibly be true. I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to control if you've got 50 versus...
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, what happened was he knew what was going on.
Right.
He didn't say anything about it, and it got to a point where...
Could he have made the call to abandon the match?
Yeah.
Potentially.
He could have done, yeah.
Right.
I mean, the referee has the highest sort of say in the game. But what happened was, with that racing going over there on that side, it became something that everything and everyone became against us that day.
Right,
so
okay.
Imagine like the other team were cheating. So it's literally down to racism, cheating and everything. So the other team were cheating, where I'm talking in a kids game where adults are literally cheating their way out of trying to win.
Or encouraging children to cheat with each other,
So
or...
I wouldn't say that the adults were encouraging the racism. I wouldn't go to that far to say that, but what happened was they kept throwing up the line saying that we was offside, even though we were miles onside. And then obviously my team were getting quite frustrated.
Of course.
So I think what happened was they got to a point where we scored a goal, and one of my players then went up to the spectators and he celebrated by doing the shush kind of... No, sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
And he got yellow carded for that.
Right, okay.
And then the same exact thing happened on the other side when my player handballed in the box. They got a penalty. They celebrate, so they got their keeper to take the penalty. He scored, and he went round every single one of us, coming my face, coming to my other coach's face, and started screaming and celebrating and everything. But nothing happened to him. Right.
So that's when you know there's some discrimination against your players and your team versus... And how often does that happen?
Do you know what, to be fair, for me, with that team, I think it only happened about 2 or 3 times.
Right. That's still too many, let's be honest.
Because it happens within the football world so much.
So has it just become not an expectation, I guess, but if it happens, you sort of just think, oh, well, here goes again, you know...
Yeah, I think.
And do you just take it?
On how far it goes, really. I think that was probably the worst my team has suffered so far. Because I mean, 2 of my players got chased down by the end of the game. Right at the end of the game, 50 then chased them both down.
Okay, that's concerning.
Obviously, as a professional, as a coach, you know, someone who I'm not going to obviously act violently. You know, that's the day where I just put my bags on and I said, listen, I'm literally...
This is going too far,
I'm ready to die for my players today. Like, you know, I'm not going to let them...
No, of course.
But at the same time, when it comes down to the discipline of it all, because we never did anything. You know, we were literally there. We're Asian, we're Muslim. I think, at that time I never had any black players. It was just all Asian Muslim players. Maybe I think I had 3 Sikh players in my team.
So it's interesting you say that, because you've obviously done some training, etc., in order to launch Nebba football. My brother actually coaches as part of inner city football, so I know that he's done a lot of coaching and stuff, that courses with the FA, for example. Do they actually do anything or provide any training that if you come across this on a match day, this is the action that you can take, or after, in retrospect, afterwards, what can you do to like file a complaint or do something?
I mean, you've got things like Kick It Out, who I think Ahmed Maravi is part of. He's been a part of that for a long time. There's Kick It Out campaigns and all that kind of stuff. But I think in terms of proactivity and productivity of how to deal with racism or finding a solution into fighting against racism, I don't think they've still got a very, very long way to go. That
does sound, it seems incredibly crazy that after all of this time, with you've got players that have been talking about racism in football. If you're talking about England, Andy Cole, you've got Sol Campbell. They've been talking about this for such a long time, And it seems crazy that the FA haven't got any element of training, not just for people who are from minority backgrounds, but also people who are not, and how to deal with the situation and how to calm the situation. Because I think in the stadiums, there's an element of control to some degree. You have got police and authority there as well. Whereas some of the more grassroots level football would not have necessarily that level of security or policing, if you will. But surely, you know, I'm surprised that there's no avenues or clear-cut, defined ways of dealing with this, even at grassroots level, to this day.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, there's not a single minority person in a higher position in the FA.
Right.
I remember one time I sat down with I sat down at the County FA in Leicester, the Leicestershire and Rutland, and there was a lady who, I can't remember what exactly her role was, but she showed me a picture of the whole board of the FA, and she goes, there's not a single person of colour there. And this is exactly what the problem is. They were all elderly, all, you know, white, let's just say. And she goes, and she's white herself, imagine that. She's white. She goes, look, the problem is, you're not there, you ain't got Ahmed Moravia there, you ain't got a certain person of colour that can have a say. Now, there's inclusion workers and other Asian people that are part of the FA, but they don't really have much of a say. And kind of going back to the discipline of what happens when a team racially abuses someone, they only get a fine. And that doesn't come to us. We don't get an apology.
Right, so there's no real repercussions.
Yeah, nothing ever happens. I mean, look, put it this way, I never used to drive back then, and we always having to catch minibuses to go to away games, etc. And then what happened at that time was we were going back and forth to the FA. I probably spent about 40, 50 quid on taxis just to get there and back.
Right.
On the day of the case, so when we did the appeal thing, all that happened was I wasn't allowed to speak because I was a legal sort of representative for the player that I had with me. He gave his statement, and all that happened was, okay, a £30 fine for the club. They don't learn anything from their mistakes.
There was nothing,
and nothing
training or nothing given.
Nothing at all, yeah.
No ban or
nothing at all.
Right.
No ban or anything. But even then, I think, I mean, because me and Moravia have had this chat many times, and he goes, look, if you're going to ban a team for being racist, you know, he's had it where we've had this conversation where he's had phone calls from other teams getting more abuse because they got banned from the leagues.
Right.
And he's rang the league up and he said, listen, what's wrong with you? Like, you know, you should have at least done something where, you know, we've had this conversation about why don't you send them people to our clubs for the day? You know, Thursday evening, let your team come and train with us.
Yeah.
And we just have
so it's not a competitive environment, it's more of a friendly, let's have a kickabout kind of.
Learn from us why we're so similar to you. You know, we
of course.
speak the universal language of football. Yes, we may look different, but we all love football, and that's why we're here. So for us to come down and to receive abuse for no reason at all, just because most of the time it's because we're better than them. It's because we're, you know, they try to get aggressive and physical,
as they start to lose.
As they start to lose, and we're just there, silky feet, not even taking a mick at them, but showing them out kind of thing, and they don't like it. So they know exactly what to do that will get to our heads.
Right.
So they start shouting out racial stuff and whatever.
It's sort of the psychology of trying to get into the heads of players. They're doing the Alex Ferguson interview on the pitch.
Exactly. It's happened in our seniors games as well. I mean, knowing the fact that we've got white and black players in our team. I remember, I think it was our first season, so that would have been about 2017-18. Young black lad Ez, you know, he was very lucky. He's a very intellectual guy. Now he's, I don't know exactly what happened, but someone said something to him on the pitch, and obviously one of my players got a bit riled up, and he goes, "Listen, now you're gonna have that, bro." Like he kind of got onto him saying that, "Look, we're gonna have to fight this one out." We're very fortunate that Ez isn't a violent person, and he just kind of went and educated the guy. He literally stopped the game and educated, went on like a Martin Luther King speech, and you know, at the end of the game, I don't know what happened, but I think we managed to shake hands or whatever.
Well, that's a positive outcome.
Yeah, but it's not always like that, because
no, of course,
you can't blame someone for reacting to racism, especially when you've got a team that's coming at you simply because of the fact that you're a minority.
No, of course. We'll come back to this actually, this conversation. In a short while, we're gonna be calling Victoria, who's a colleague of mine. She was white British and obviously was watching the England match as well. Like us, I think the whole of Highfields, I've never seen it so quiet. I'm sure Abington Road was so quiet as well. There was no cars on the road. Everyone had taken their spots as well in town, because I passed through town in the afternoon and they were already cheering and singing "It's Coming Home." Sadly, it didn't. But when I was young, I mean, I've always been, like I said, I've got brothers, so it was either I don't join them and get bored or join them. So I used to enjoy watching football with them. And, Southgate missing that penalty in Euro 96 was heartbreaking. Lampard's goal not being counted was equally heartbreaking. And then after that, I think I sort of started to stop watching it as much. Maybe it was just I couldn't handle the heartbreak anymore. But I think we all feel affiliated to the England football team. Most of my friends who are South Asian or black, who are born here or not even born here and came to live here very young, and my father and everyone, that is into football, they do support England and they get behind the team. And, you'll have people from all different backgrounds singing "It's Coming Home," and we were all willing for them to win. But we know when we were watching that match and it came to extra time. I mean, I think my brothers were shouting to get Rashford on from half time, and I'm sure other people were as well, but I'm sure that was just football tactics and them just watching the game. But coming to extra time, I think everybody knew towards the end when they saw that substitution happen at, 120 minutes?
Like that.
And Rashford and sort of Sancho and Saka, who was already on the pitch, came on. I think we all said, if these guys miss, we don't want to even go on social media.
Yeah.
And that was a conversation we all had. And what was your thoughts at that 120-minute mark?
I think you hit the nail on the head where, every single one of us knew that when it comes to penalties, the first thing I remember when Rashford missed his penalty, I pictured Ashley Young.
Yes.
Ashley Cole when they missed theirs.
Yes.
Was it 2012, was it?
Yeah.
And you just knew already, like, I remember my friend's dad was with us, so we was watching a game all together, and he goes, the first thing he said, you feed 3 million kids for England, and then just one penalty, and that's it. That's literally what he said, and he goes, this is it now. He goes, feed 3 million kids, and one penalty. He goes, he's finished tonight, innit? And then, next thing you know,
the next two missed.
Yeah, Sancho, and then it's thinking, wow, you just know exactly what's going to happen. It was really already fueled up throughout the whole Euros anyway with the knee thing. As soon as before kickoff, you take the knee, all these boos and jeers from everyone, and then as soon as Sterling scores in every game, everyone's going mental. But you just knew what it is, what fuels these people's ammunition, and it's like as if even though they wanted England to win, you're just waiting. It's like as if they wanted the black people to fail as well, just so that they can, fuel their racism out. Yeah, it's so bittersweet. So one of the things I shared on my social media when the Euros started is that I just don't know. I'm conflicted. I want to support the team because I always have. But then the fans and not all fans, let's be honest, but some of the fans and what we've read and what we've seen, it makes it so hard to, at the same time. But then someone else said to me, but actually the boys on the pitch, the men on the pitch, like Rashford, they need our support. They deserve our support, and we should, and that changed my mindset. And I was like, yeah, right, they do need our support. Why should we stop supporting them because other people don't know how to support them in a fair and equal manner and do not see them as part, because they are England, we are England, they are our three lions, as everyone said. So, that changed my opinion, and I was like, right, we're going to get behind England and we want them to win, and we will enjoy it if they win, and we will enjoy it even if they don't, because they made it to the final in our lifetime. 100%. I mean, I think you've got to look at some positives throughout this whole England team. And I remember, so I met Gareth Southgate a few years, I think it was in 2018. And I had a conversation with him about, his plans for, like bringing in all these players and stuff. So, you've already got Sterling, which was already going to make it into the team anyway.
Mm-hmm.
When he spoke about Jadon Sancho, I think he spoke about Hudson-Odoi. That was one person that was actually meant to make it to the England team, and a couple of others. Jadon Sancho was one of the big ones. So I'm a bit confused to why he actually didn't get much game time this time.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a surprise to most people, that why weren't they put on, was it a tactical thing, so to catch the goalkeeper out a little bit because they'd not been on the pitch for long?
To be fair, I was a bit confused to why they put Mason Mount as a winger in the finals, because I thought he's just going to keep it as, probably have Saka on the right and just keep to the usual lineup that he always goes for. That would probably be more efficient for him. However, I mean, to be fair, you got to look at it like Gareth Southgate has done such a brilliant thing with this team. He's brought young people in, young blood. He's given young people, like he's put faith into the young people of England. He's brought so many black players in.
Do you think he made up for his penalty loss then?
Yeah, by all means. I think, do you know what? I mean, yeah, you could say that he could have made that switch with Rashford and Sancho a lot earlier, yes.
Yeah.
And
it's easy to say from where we're sat as well.
Yeah, but I mean, he took on heat. I mean, a good manager will take on all the, what's it called? He took on all the heat for the decisions that he made.
He did. To be fair, he did.
Every game, and you got to respect that. And the fact that he allowed every player to express themselves, they played good football.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say he's not a strong manager, but actually he's the respect side and the way he handles himself.
I think
it's refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, because Grealish came on against was it Ukraine? No, was it Germany? I can't remember. And he took him off straight away. So Grealish, who arguably is the best player of England right now, who came on within 10 minutes in, I think. Straight back off. So it shows that he's willing to do what's necessary. I think you got to understand that you're playing the best team of Europe, who's been on a 33-game unbeaten run, and we scored within a couple of minutes, and then it gets to a point where time's running its course now.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, as a manager, the grassroots manager myself, sometimes it's very difficult when you're playing them games, and it could
go your way, it could go against you.
Go either way, innit? Yeah. So I mean, it could have gone either way, literally. I don't think it's one of them ones where.
It's a young English team as well. They've got some more years in their tank.
Who's the eldest? I think Kyle Walker's the eldest in the team, isn't he?
Yeah, so they've got...
He's 28, so...
It's exciting to see them get to the final at this stage, actually, as well. And what's exciting as well, and I don't know from my English team was Beckham and Rio Ferdinand, it was Gerrard. That was the era that when I think of England, that's who I think of. So, but this team seems that they work better together. They seem friendlier off the pitch. It didn't seem that way back in the day.
That's right, yeah. I mean, before there was them arguments about, and Lampard and Gerrard even speak about it on, I think it's Monday Night Football. And they're talking about how they had the divisions of clubs. So their club rivalries and their club pride was a lot bigger than England itself. With this team here, I mean, you could talk about every player that's come out of this England campaign. Sorry, the Euros campaign, how they all talk about this, the best camp they've ever been with, the players that they're on.
I'm sure they were on holiday together as well, some of them.
Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka, who play for two different sides of London.
Yeah, of course, rivals.
Talk about what rivalries, and what Gareth Southgate's achieved with this team. I mean, he got to the semi-finals in, was it the World Cup?
Yeah, it was yeah.
And 2018, I think. You had, Euros finals, first final in 50.
And we've got another World Cup coming up. So
the World Cup coming. So the future's bright for England. And I think it's inspiring for every other grassroots football club, every other minority football player. Even, I think it should encourage other Asian Muslim parents to support their children in football as well. Now to see that there's so much more scope,
definitely,
for minority players to make it into.
We're going to touch on that. We're going to come back to that. But I believe that we've got my colleague Victoria on the line, and it'd be great to hear a little bit from a white British perspective and how they felt watching exactly what we did. Yeah. So is Victoria on the line?
Yeah. Hi, Jeeda.
Hi, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So you're from Countersthorpe in Leicester, so it's Leicestershire. And I know that you're an avid football fan, being a Man City fan, so you're on the other side of Manchester to me, but we sit there next to each other, don't we, on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, we do indeed.
So when England lost, what was your initial reaction, and in your locality, what was your community's reaction?
Okay, well, for me, really, I think it's typical. We go typical England, isn't it? But obviously, I'm dead proud of them. We obviously went out on a penalty shootout, and that unfortunately seems to be the way that we just bomb out of any football competition. But
when will we win a penalty shootout?
We need to break the chain. You're correct really there. But I think initially really, really sad. Obviously, we fought so hard. We have such a fantastic team this time around. I think Gareth Southgate has done a fantastic job in coaching them and getting them to where they've got to in the last few competitions. But obviously, just after the sadness, there was no anger for myself, but obviously looking at the community around me, you've got your typical football fanatics. I didn't see any racism myself from anyone I knew personally, but it's been from the white community and seeing all the posts starting to flood on social media, where it's like, oh, for God's sake, who let them take the penalties? Oh my God, who decided that, and basically all the racist comments started coming out. And I don't want to obviously share those online because we've already been through so much hurt.
Yeah, of course.
It just led me to be, I think I had a conversation with you where I said, I'm embarrassed to be white because of it.
It's sad. Well, I don't think you should ever be embarrassed to be who you are and where you're from. I think it's just sad when you've got people that look like you, represent you, that are behaving in such a manner. I think we can relate to that when we've seen people who claim to identify as Muslim and in terrorist incidents. I think we feel the same. We just think, oh no, here again. Why are we having to do this again? And why are they trying to represent us when they don't represent us at all? So, myself and Efaz here, we discussed about how we felt when we saw Rashford go up to take that penalty. And we knew that if he missed, we knew that, we're going to expect a massive backlash, racist backlash online. What was your thoughts as he went up to take that penalty? Did you think the same, or was it a different thought process for you?
Honestly, for me, I didn't even think about that. I thought that here's a young 20-odd-year-old boy, having to take this moment on his shoulders. How many small mistakes have we made at, our teen years and our early 20s where, and he's got not just himself, he's representing the whole country. And I just felt sadness for him when he missed. It was just written all over his face, but I didn't even, and this is probably where I need to grow, I didn't even think about, if he misses this, he's going to be subject to a load of racial abuse. I
don't think that's you needing to grow, actually. We all want to be more like you. I think that's what needs to happen. Me and Efaz shouldn't have sat there and even thought that. We should have been doing exactly what you were doing and looking at the fact that he's a young male who's, in his 20s, very young, and had to take such a big responsibility on his shoulders, and the whole country was willing him to score. But the fact that we had to think about the racism, that's the sad bit. Actually, the growth would be us joining you and feeling the same way as you in football when you watch football, rather than the other way around. And I think that's what's important. And I wish I did. I wish I could just sit there and feel exactly like you did, rather than the other way. What about you, Efaz? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think, seeing such a young lad take a penalty. Personally, I don't think he's going to miss. Rashford don't miss penalties.
Yeah.
So it's one of them ones. But at the same time, I think it's just one of them history repeating itself ones. Hence why we thought like that. As Victoria was saying, for her, she just wanted, England's come so far. Young guy's taking a penalty. Best of luck to him. You wouldn't really think...
race, obviously, for Victoria didn't come into play. He was a young man, which is what we all want. We all want to feel that way, don't we?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't... If the world wasn't the way it was, then we probably just would have thought, guy missed the penalty, or it's a young lad taking a penalty. But I think, in terms of growth, I think it would be nice for all of us to get to that stage in our lives where we can think, okay, just another young lad taking his penalty, rather than, oh, it's a black lad and he's going to face all the racism.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for your thoughts, Victoria. It's really insightful to hear from you as well, and how you felt watching it as well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being given my perspective, because I'm like you guys. I just want to move forward from this, and I hope in the next 12 months, when we reach the World Cup in December next year, that especially where it's located, that maybe we will see the greater good in people rather than the bad side and minority who want to be racist to our players.
That's a very good point, actually, because the next World Cup is going to be in Qatar, and it's going to be in a Muslim majority country. Obviously, it will be interesting to see how it is dealt with and how racism, touch wood, we will be past it, but we know deep down there's still a lot of work to do from conversations I've just had with you, Efaz. So hopefully, God willing, by then, we will be able to enjoy it. But fingers crossed. Thank you for calling in, Victoria. It was lovely catching up. Thank you. So that was interesting perspective to actually take. It was interesting to hear from Victoria and how she watched the football sitting there, and how nice would it be to watch a game and actually feel the way she did and not have to think about the fact of the race of the player that's just come on the pitch. It'd be so refreshing to I think when we were young, though, when she said that, I thought, actually, when I was a lot younger, that's how I did feel.
Yeah.
It kind of brought memories back. And then as I became older and got more wiser, we say wiser, as I understood society and politics a bit more, that's when the reality hit me. So I guess when it came back to what you said about the 12 to 13-year-olds and having that conversation, it's quite sad.
I think it comes down to, for us, it's that reality of, we've seen it happen before. I remember Gary Neville said the exact same thing when he spoke about Rashford penalty, and he goes, he knew straight away as he missed that penalty, the first thing he thought was, what's going to happen tomorrow, or the racial abuse that he's going to suffer from. So everyone had different opinions, but I think some people have got that innocent side to them where it's just, another person taking a penalty. And some people, just because of experience, they just know that, look, this thing going to turn out well.
I think the lads actually handled it really well on social media as well. Like Marcus Rashford on social media. I mean, he's been doing great work, as we know anyway, both off and on the pitch. And Saka's letter as well. Yeah. And I know recently I saw that he wrote back to a fan who actually wrote out and reached out to him, which, I think one of the things, and I've discussed this before, when we watched football when we were younger, there wasn't a personality behind the players. Beckham sort of broke that a little bit, didn't he, when he sort of got married and the Beckham brand became a brand when he married Victoria. And that's when we first started to see the personalities of players, and the wives and girlfriends became a thing, and we all started to see the tabloid papers chasing the footballers and trying to get them. Well, now with the advent of social media, it brings a whole new personality forward, doesn't it? So like Marcus Rashford doing the work that he does off the pitch becomes really pushed to the forefront. And it's not just about what they're doing on the pitch. Their personalities off the pitch and the PR world becomes a bigger thing for them as well, doesn't it? And they become essentially bigger role models in that sense as well.
I think you need to understand that. I mean, you got a 19-year-old, 23-year-old, 20-year-old, right? Sancho. And I mean, I'm 30, 31. It sometimes takes me back a bit to understand how young these guys really are. Yeah. Like you said, they've got the PR pressure, the media, they've got their football careers. They're playing at a very high level of world football, the highest. One's playing at Arsenal, two of them are at United now. And, the pressures that they've got, and then to, become role models at such a young age.
They're brands in their own self, aren't they?
Even, I think Alex Ferguson said about Rashford is that, look, you don't need to teach this guy how to become a man. He already is a man. At the age of 23, for him to take on what he's taken on, and to make it, a big priority in his life, to make sure children are being fed, and to give out all his charity and stuff. I think I've seen something, was it yesterday, where he was at the top
Yep, top giver, of charity.
Like yeah, so you got to respect.
That was interesting. After a lot of people were saying, "Well, why don't the footballers put their hands in their pockets and feed everyone?" Well, actually, he actually is doing quite a lot, especially topping the list as well. So, there are brands in their own right. They have big deals that happen with brands in order to elevate their image as well. It's not the football of yesterday if you're at that level now. It is a whole new ball game. The clubs actually have to have a PR a department, a social media department that helps these players enhance their image. And you got to remember, they're not marketeers, they're not social media gurus. They are footballers who are now having to do two jobs essentially. They're celebrities on one side and role models, but then at the same time they've got to do the training and they've got to do the things that they do on the football pitch. So there's so much pressure, whereas before you may have missed. So Gareth Southgate, for example, when he missed, it was the newspapers that were grilling him, but he didn't have all the public and he didn't have to hear what we were all thinking when he missed. We just did that amongst our households, whereas now everything that's happening and whispers that are happening in the households are not happening in households anymore. They're happening on a public sphere. So actually, to some degree, what we're discussing is the clubs as well have certain responsibilities, and the FA need to consider not only the support that they give players on the pitch, but also the support that they get when they have all of this backlash that comes with it. Because I right now it's at international level. At what stage will it become at club level as well, to a certain degree, which it does. Because shockingly, so I work in social media, but when the Premier League's on the weekend, I'd say there's more men on Twitter who are trending in terms of, if you look at the demographics, who are talking about the football or the match that's just happened, and you can see the dialogue that's happening on Sky Sports and people commenting. So what do you think, like where are we heading? Because for us, we're both South Asian. There's not many players from a South Asian background on the pitch at that level.
I think I remember Issa Suleiman, Aston Villa? Yeah, Aston Villa. There hasn't been any South Asians that I know have actually made it at a very, very high level. I know there was a young Asian lad who broke into Bayern Munich recently, but I don't know if he's played anything big just as of yet.
So from my understanding, that you can count on one hand how many have actually broke into sort of mainstream football. Obviously, being from Leicester, we've got Hamza Chowdhury, who's representing for our community at our local club. There have been a few others. You've got Michael Chopra, and Zesh Rahman, I believe, who's played for Fulham. I was from a British South Asian. Were you born in Fulham? Why don't you? Who do you support then?
I came here when I was at 3, so.
Right. So, why do you think there's not more South Asian players? Because from what you're saying, and from my family background as well, all the boys in my family are football crazy. You clearly coach all the football crazy young, British Asian footballers. It's so ingrained in our life. It's not cricket for us. A lot of us are into football. So why are we not seeing more, especially at this stage?
I think obviously racism is one thing you got to consider. For some reason, I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why people think like this, but to have Asian people in football right now is probably not marketable for them, apparently. However, at the same time, as well as the racism, I think it comes down to parental support. One thing I can say is that whenever my young boys come to play football, I think probably in the last 5 years that I've had my team, in how many games we've played, we probably only had parents turn up to about 5 games.
Right.
5 years. So that's another major factor. And I think if Asian parents supported their children more, there would be a chance of us breaking through in somewhat way.
I think the issue that we've got within the South Asian community, especially when it comes to supporting because as we know, there's always when you're going into education, become a doctor, do something like accounting, one of these dentist, I don't know, do one of these professions. And the reason why I think that they say this is because you're breaking down less of a glass ceiling in those professions. And they know that we're going to come up against racism or various other factors that can stop you from breaking down those barriers. Whereas if you become a doctor, so there's always going to be someone that needs a doctor. Does that make sense? So do you think it's because of the experience of racism and coming into the country, they don't want to have that risk factor of actually you might not make it to professional level, and by the time you've tried, you're going to lose all this opportunity of education, and then your future, you're going to be a bit stuck?
I mean, look, things are improving slowly. Always got to look at the progression. But I think at the same time, I don't think majority of parents understand, or they don't think that's a realistic profession.
Right.
Profession. Sorry, they think when it comes to boxing or whatever it is, this and that, they don't think it's a realistic profession where an Asian person can get into.
Yeah, so like Amir Khan, when he broke the boxing thing, kind of broke that barrier a little bit. I was
just going to say this exact same thing. So Amir Khan right now, obviously, he's broken every barrier of boxing, become world champion, worldwide, etc., global. So that
stigma that parents had was a little bit broken down, I guess.
Yeah, and then now you see how many Pakistani or young Muslim fighters.
Yeah, amateur level,
Amateur level, even some of them are at professional level.
Yeah.
The rest of it just comes down to marketability.
Mm-hmm.
How well can you market yourself to go on that global level? And with football as well, I think there will be within the next.
We need someone to break through. That's what you're saying.
There will be someone because I think. Because I'm involved in like a racism forum where it's with black and Asian people or clubs, and they're just fighting to get Asian people in to fight against racism and things like that. And I think, we just need to keep banging on their doors to say that, listen, we're going to make it.
It'll be exciting, that moment, to see someone that is like us at a really high level walking out on that pitch.
Exactly. I think it's going to take time. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot on sort of conference or sort of championship level. There may be a few, but it's just about getting them to getting that one breakthrough in a big Premier League club to show some kind of magic and then have people talking about it. Once someone's talking about it, that's when it's going to be like, okay, well, Asian people need to start getting through. And I think
it's exciting as our generation, because I'm in my 30s as well, as the kids are now coming to a level of 13, 14, depending on when you've had your children. And I think we are a different generation because we grew up watching football. You have a different respect for the profession, and a lot of people our age have sort of played football as well, rather than parents who sort of came here and they worked hard to give us these opportunities that we have. So it'll be exciting to see that. I'm going to touch on one more thing. So you run, obviously, Neba Football. I've seen some amazing female players, girls, in some of the, we did the charity 24-hour football thing at Mudney for Palestine. And that was really exciting for me, seeing some young girls really playing some fantastic football. And when asked the question, they play on a weekly basis. Some of them play at goals. So what is Neba Football doing for the young women who actually want to get into football?
Do you know what? The first thing I ever wanted to do, put it this way, right? Neba Football was an unintentional project that came out the wood. It just came out of nowhere, let's just say.
Yeah.
Now, one of the biggest things that we wanted to do, because my mum's involved in as well. She's a Niqabi woman. She was the club secretary and development coach. She ran that basically, let's just say. And I always said to her that I wanted to start girls football because my mum had to face that sort of discrimination as well, because a lot of people said, Muslim woman, what are you doing wrong? A place full of men and all that kind of stuff, a place full of boys and whatever. So my mum had to really battle that. So one of the things that we used to always discuss was girls football. I've done some football with girls at Leicester City. There's some amazing talent that I've seen, school girls that I think they were like, I remember there was a tournament with year 10s and 11s. And there was this girl from Saw Valley. Was she from Saw Valley or Rushmead? And there was like that's like Man City United.
Yeah, they are rivals, aren't they?
I remember I had to ref the game, and I'm not gonna lie, there was a girl on each side, two of them, one from Rushmead, one from Saw Valley, And I went to speak to him at the end, and I was like, wow, you two are flipping amazing. Honestly, and the Asian as well. But you know, two Asian girls. And at them times, I'm talking about 5-6 years ago now, and I would never ever have expected to see, you know, firstly an Asian girl as good as they were. There's also a girl that I went to a course with at Leicester City with Katie Smith. She played for Leicester Girls, and even her, she used to make us men look like amateurs. She used to she used to skill us all up on the pitch, like proper actually do us on the pitch. But yeah, I do want to start something. At the moment, Neba's kids side of things are on hold. Just want to make sure we're exactly clear on all the COVID guidelines before getting
of course.
to pay everything and whatnot.
Of course.
And just go through a bit of a restructure. But girls football is something that I really want to do.
It is exciting because obviously, I mean, Manchester United founded their club just recently in 2018. So which is a shock. People might not realise, but that is so new. Yeah. But actually, the England females football team actually made a final before the men's team. So, you know, it's exciting, and it's exciting to see young women like me are interested in it, because when I was growing up, a lot of the sports that I was told to play were hockey or netball or whatever, and actually seeing young women getting involved in football is exciting. And I think there's you know, loads of changes coming up. From what speaking to you, I think there's a long way to go in terms of racism and football. However, there's a lot more exciting things coming up from the South Asian community in terms of breaking through that wall, and women in football as well. So I'm sure you'll be back again and to talk more in more detail.
Definitely. But and going back onto girls football, there's a big shout out to a group of girls actually from Leicester. I think her name is Aisha, and I forgot the other guys' names, but I know they've got like a session that they run on Friday.
I think I have seen something, yes.
Yeah, do you know what? Because I've spoken to them a few times, and I said, look, you know what, I've always wanted to do something with guys' football. If you guys want to take it to like a next level kind of thing, let me know. We can always have a conversation about it. But I think they just wanted to play for, you know, just their enjoyment and stuff, and it's nice to see that, you know, the last time, I mean, I don't remember seeing girls at goals playing five-side football, just having their own sessions, you know, organising it, getting 10, 15 girls down. And they're all sort of like slightly above 20. So still quite young, but still not as old to, you know, having their own thing going on. And it's just refreshing to see, and it's very empowering to see that women are, you know, taking it on their own backs now. So we're going to create our own platform to express ourselves and play football, do something that we love. And I've not seen them play yet, but I'm sure that there's a lot of talent there to be shown. So
yeah, inshallah. So it'll be great to see. Thank you for coming and having a good chat with me. It was really interesting and insightful, actually. And if anyone wants to get involved or play football or have any children, they can get in touch with you on social media. Is it at Neba Football on Instagram?
Neba Football, yeah, that's right.
So they can get in touch. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.